This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, December 21st, 2022. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Senate Republican leaders who brokered a spending deal to avoid a government shutdown on Friday say there is a lot to be happy about in the package. Ramsey Touchberry reports House Republicans were less than celebratory about the $1.7 trillion package, saying Senate Republicans should have helped push the spending deal into next year to put more of a Republican stamp on the legislation. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, however, touted multiple wins for conservatives. For example, the $858 billion in defense spending outpaced the $773 billion in domestic non-defense money. It also includes a Republican spearheaded provision to ban TikTok from U.S. government phones over national security concerns. Lawmakers are clamoring to get the package through by a Friday night government shutdown deadline. The U.S. is waking up, but waking up too slowly to the growing threats posed by China, Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher says, arguing that throughout the past 2 decades under administrations of both parties, leaders have failed to act with the urgency needed to deal with a defining international challenge. Gallagher is set to be chair of the new House Select Committee on China, a panel that GOP leaders envision can grapple with what critics say are China's militarization of the South China Sea and a host of other issues. The Supreme Court will get another chance to try and shrink the breadth of federal agencies. The latest miss came last month, Alex Sawyer reports, in a case involving the Department of Veterans Affairs' interpretation of rules governing disability coverage. The High Court declined to take up the case. Now it will get another chance from a group of fishers. They complain the National Marine Fisheries Service has run amok with a plan to charge fishing vessels as much as $700 a day to hire a monitor to police their catch. The Fisheries Service is delaying the program until next year. The fishers are asking the High Court to hear their case and get a final ruling on what the court allows. They previously lost in a federal appeals court 2-1. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find the entire lineup of Washington Times podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. A GOP initiative for recruiting and electing diverse candidates saw results in this year's election cycle. In November, Valerie Richardson reports 769 Republican women and candidates of color, or 51% of those who ran as Republicans, won their state legislative races. The Republican State Leadership Committee says it's an uptick from the 655 elected as such in 2020. Republicans have long argued their stances and values align better with those of recent immigrants than those of the Democratic Party platform, but making inroads with voters of color who traditionally have backed Democrats has been a challenge. And finally, Twitter worked behind the scenes with the Pentagon to aid in the U.S. military's covert influence operations overseas. That comes from another release of internal communications from the social media platform, Joseph Clark reports. In one 2017 email, a contractor from U.S. Central Command asked Twitter to add a verification checkmark and whitelist several Arab language accounts the military used to amplify certain messages. On the same day Twitter received that email, officials applied a whitelist tag to the accounts which exempted them from being identified as spam and made them more likely to trend on the platform. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.